do.
But yeah, there's just been some news now. Niners news has been fairly dry, but it's just a lot of it affects the Niners
True.
here. So just some kind of housekeeping things real quick. So Niners did sign a safety today to reserve futures contract Quindell Johnson, I believe former uh, draft pick from Memphis. I know he's been with the Rams and the Bears. To me, it's that 90-man roster, just adding a guy. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, maybe he makes the practice squad, but I don't see too much about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's just still a death piece kind of type deal. This is usually around the time they just get the death pieces figured
Mhm.
out pretty much, especially for just bodies for camp that's coming up. I do like the reserves that we got coming in that I think we'll end up keeping, which is like Samo. I think he's coming back. Austin Pleasance, I believe,
Mhm.
should be coming back too as well. So there's a couple good names we're probably gonna bring back. So I want to see Charlie Heck come back, but there's no
Mhm.
guarantee of that. But I've heard I forgot what article I was reading, but one of them was we have like a reserve on them, which was Samo and Austin Pleasance, uh, and I think those are two players I actually kind of like their
Yeah.
potential to maybe even make the roster next year. So
Yeah, I mean Samuel Wright was on this team. A lot of us I think thought he'd be like a practice squad guy, but he was pretty much on this roster, so I would expect that him to be back. But the next piece of news is Dominic Pooney was named to the NFL All-Pro Rookie team by the
oh shit.
PFWA writers. This was from Matt Mayoko, who actually put this information out originally. So, congratulations to Dominic Pooney, man. I think it's extremely tough, especially with offensive linemen, to
Yeah.
even make a rookie, like all pro team. So,
Yeah, definitely. It's
pretty
not something to just
insane.
shake your head at. It's not something small. It's not something minor. Like especially the third round draft pick, your expectations are like not even to be a starter when you first come out. It's just like what are you going to do later on next year? Even like you can be a starter, but no one expects you to be an all pro on any level. So yeah, what Pooty did there, that
Yeah.
award is crazy. That's props to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. I know there's some criticism for them and the stuff they do, but that's one thing you can definitely give them props for is finding a starting offensive lineman in the third round. That was like the 25th selected offensive lineman in the draft at the time, and it's just that is insane to me. Uh, so that's actually so props to them finding a gem like that, and props to Pooney, and hopefully he can not have a sophomore slump because we all know sophomore slumps are real things.
Yeah.
That shit that actually
I mean,
happens. So hopefully he
Jair
doesn't have a
Brown,
sophomore
for
slump.
instance, yeah.
Jair Brown didn't have the potential. Jair Brown did not look very good. Looked very great for a rookie year. The next year, obviously, kind of had a little bit of
Mhm.
slump. I don't think he played as bad as some people think make him out to be, but definitely was not the potential you saw in his rookie year heading into the
I think
sophomore
also
season.
some of it was just Sorensen was putting him in a
You get shot.
terrible position. Because I think that's the biggest thing is the Niners need to go get an actual free safety. Because well, first of all these guys are strong safeties and they're like all the same
True.
type, and it's just I don't know. We'll have to see
You
what
need
they
a
do.
you need a sideline to sideline free safety guy
Mhm.
that can really actually truly stick with some of these fast tight ends
Yeah,
these days.
exactly. And you need
We
you
have the
need like a
nickel and things like
faster
that.
guy too, because our guys aren't. Yeah, I mean, we saw it in the Vikings game, right? Week 2, right to
Yes, yes, we
Justin
did.
Jefferson. So,
Kept getting burned
um,
there. And that's no knock to Jair Brown and Mustafa there. Obviously, they're like
yeah.
we love their potential. We both agree Nick Sorensen was the issue with that. Uh, but obviously, there will be a hole there to fill with that free agent spot, free safety spot. Because you just be shooing in Jair Brown. I'm assuming is the fastest of the two in that position. And even Hufunga came back, he's not fast. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you definitely need a speed guy. So I agree
Yeah,
with
I don't see them drafting one in the first round. I
that.
hope they do like later on in the draft, but I think
Yes,
first couple rounds are probably going to be trenches if that's offensive line, defensive
fingers
line.
crossed.
I think
Fingers
this is
crossed.
the year where we can kind of say that because I think it's clear as data where okay, the Niners know they need defensive line, and that's something we know John Lynch absolutely loves. So I'm
Yeah.
not super worried there with the trenches, but yeah, definitely would like to see some offensive linemen. Other also kind of news. So getting into a little bit of the coaching, and we were just talking about this before we got on here. But the Bucks, according to Rick Stroud, who's a uh, reporter for Tampa Bay, came out with an article saying that the Bucks are preparing for Liam Cohen to be offered the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching job. Now, you might be wondering, what does that have to do with the 49ers? Well, Robert Saleh, as we know, interviewed with the Bucks. Now, he is supposed to have a second interview on Friday, but there's other people involved too in the team. So
Mm.
definitely interesting. I think
And
good thing for the Niners.
very good thing. It's a very good sign because obviously, I don't think because I think Cohen is the last. I read an article. He's the last offensive head coach remaining, and I think the Jaguars have hired nothing but offensive coaches as of late. I believe I could be wrong here, but and then none of them actually worked out. And so some people are thinking maybe they're not going to hire an offensive coach this time around, probably go defensive coach. But based on the trends that we're seeing with like other defensive coaches is just not working other places, maybe that could work in our favor with like them seeing, okay, obviously you have to go with the offensive coach. They've just been swinging and missing as of late for Jacksonville. And you got to, I think I agree that you need to find an offensive head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not just because I like Robert Saleh. Obviously, I want Robert Saleh. That's my number one priority guy. But like you have Trevor Lawrence, you need to find a guy who's a guru, someone who could scheme these scheme players open for him and stuff like that. Because obviously, Trevor Lawrence can't do it himself. He obviously can't just control the offense himself. He needs some sort of, I hate this term, but I got to use it, system quarterback / thing that needs to happen with him because he obviously cannot carry an offense by himself. He obviously can't be the sole, like, okay, you be the defensive coordinator and I will be the Aaron Rodgers-esque savior guy, and you can't do that. I like Robert Saleh, and I do think he's a great head coach, but for Jacksonville, especially how much you're paying Trevor Lawrence and the expectations you have for him, you need to get that figured out as soon as possible. So for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think it'd be smart for him to sign Cohen because he was actually really good offensive coordinator. I thought he did a really good job with Baker Mayfield in that offense, especially when Godwin and what's his name went out. Evans was out for those few weeks. He did a really good job and made Bucky Irving look like an absolute stud. Even though I called him a bum for almost stealing Mike Evans' thunder there in that last game. There, I was like, how dare you, man? But outside of that, like he is a really phenomenal running back, and you like what you saw with that, and that's kind of what the Jacksonville Jaguars need that. And he's not Ben Johnson, right? He's nothing like that. He's not Joe Brady from the Bills, but he's definitely good at his job, and there's potential there for sure. So, and if he gets that job, the only thing that's remaining, I believe, for Robert Saleh is the Cowboys and Raiders job. He ain't going to the Cowboys.
And that's why I brought up the one. Yeah, you know what's crazy to me, and I understand it's the Ronnie rule and stuff, but to me, I think out of the three jobs, I think the Cowboys actually make the most sense because the thing is that team at least has talent. And yes, I know you could say the same thing about the Jets. And yes, I know people don't like the owner for the Cowboys, but I still don't put
Jerry
the
Jones
Cowboys
is the factor here.
nowhere close to where the Jets are. Yeah, but like I just don't put the Cowboys in that like Jets tree because at least at the end of the day, aside from this year, like the Niners, like they've made the playoffs at least. So to me, I think that'd be kind of more intriguing, but that's why I think also it sounds like we're just not going to know what happens till the end of the week, which kind of sucks for the Niners.
Fridays when the interview for the Cohen guy is, right? Yeah. Sorry to make it off.
No, Cohen's Wednesday, Saleh's Friday.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So we won't know probably until like Saturday or Friday if like real answers. Okay. So we'll be on our toes until then.
Tippy toes. Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't feel great about it because I think Brandon Staley's probably gonna be DC.
You think Brandon Staley's gonna get the job, dude?
I mean, we talked about it last week, right? With all these different guys, and pretty much everyone's off the board except for the like Eberflus, I think, and then the old Colts DC Gus Bradley. I don't think he's gotten hired. I think. I forget who the Bengals like hired. I'm pretty sure they might have already hired.
They hired a defensive coordinator already? Yeah, I don't know who that is. I think Jake would know who that is. But
I think I don't know. Bradley may have actually gotten snudged. So
Bengals DC. They hired I know the Colts hired Lou
And a roomie.
Anarumo.
Yeah.
But I don't see anything about the Bengals hiring it. But they said
Okay, maybe
last report
the
was for CBS. Last report was Notre Dame defensive coordinator Al Golden is eyed for.
Okay, that's right. I forget that was like a thing. Okay, I think you're so maybe Gus Bradley isn't actually hired by anyone. But yeah, it looks like Allen, who I wanted, is it's not official yet, but it sounds like he's gonna become the DC for the Bears. And man, that Bears
The
staff
Bears.
could be pretty
Okay.
decent. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that was your number one candidate, and you love Dennis Allen. So you like and that
Yeah.
defense for the Bears is stacked. It's ready to go. Like if you're a good defensive
Mhm.
coordinator, this should be like you should do really well. And I'm not trying to like add pressure on it because like it was your choice and stuff like that. I just truly think that like whoever can jump into that Bear situation, especially with what Eberflus was doing. Yeah, he wasn't a great head coach, but he was a good defensive coordinator for them, even as a head coach. And you got Jalen Johnson back there, Montez Sweat, and I can't remember the linebacker they have is pretty good too. They got pieces, man.
Okay.
So they could do some damage.
Yeah, so they definitely could do some damage. All right, so I want to talk about this real quick before we kind of continue the coaching stuff. I know you're not on Twitter, so you might have not seen this, but did you see what Diameter Lenore said?
Yes, I was actually in the middle of a live, and I was looking at a thing for Max Crosby. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
Not to
so
give it away right
Diameter
away, but
Lenore on the 19th says Max Crosby would look crazy in a Niners jersey. Fire emoji. Now,
that would be fire, dude.
Now,
That'd be
his
dope.
contract isn't like that crazy. I was just looking at it.
No?
I think it's like 26 and then 18 million or vice versa. Um,
I did hear 18
Which-
million would be the cap hit
which
if we were to trade for him.
yeah, which I think like is doable, but I don't see it happening. Just because like you have so many other guys to pay to. Also, I'm just not sure what the cap it's going to look like for Purdy in kind of the first 2 years of that deal. So that's another thing where it's like, okay, maybe it could happen, but again, we just don't know the Purdy deal yet because that hasn't happened yet. So
if you
like
look
kinda-
at if you look at what the rumors are, and usually what 49ers tend to do is they backload stuff. Max Crosby contract wouldn't be backloaded. It would come into this year. If you want to go off Dale Lombardi's little projection of contract, which was like $61 million a year, that blew my mind. But what he had for him was like the first year was like $7 million, then the next year was like $14 million or something like that. If that's the case, and they can actually do something like that for 2025 and 2026, I do think they could fit a Max Crosby in that situation. I think the 49ers have like $60-something million in cap space this year. And I think they can make that kind of a sacrifice.
Yeah, but I
it
think
just depends how long do we have Max Crosby for?
Yeah, so Crosby has 2 more years left in his deal. And the thing is, you have Greenlaw, Hufanga, Banks. I know people don't want him back. I don't think he's gonna be back, but you still gotta like put him out there because he is there, right? So I think that's also kind of interesting. Now you obviously have the Lenore deal that already got finished, so that's good.
Steal.
Don't have to dude, that was shout out to
steal
John
of a
Lynch on that
contract.
one. But,
Yes.
yeah.
He deserved way
So,
more than
I
that,
don't know.
especially towards the end of the year. He deserved more than that.
So I think obviously it'd be amazing if they could get Max Crosby, but I just don't see it happening.
What do you think they would have to give up to get Max Crosby? Like that's the main question. Because like the 11th pick,
yeah,
do they have to give that up? You know what I mean? Like they were to do that.
That's
already like $10 million, something like that against the cap, or something like that.
Okay, so if you look at like last year's trade, right? The Giants traded for Brian Burns, if you remember, from Carolina.
Yeah.
So that let me see what the
That's
trade
like a first and a third, I think, or something like that. I only got more than a first.
Okay, it was a 2024 second round pick, which was the 39th overall pick, a 2025 fifth round selection, and a swap of fifth rounders. Like,
so there's no first round pick swap. What?
No. Yeah, no.
I don't know. That's kind of exciting. Not gonna lie. Because if you do you want? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would do that, but I don't know if I'd want to move off a second round pick
Really,
right
for
now.
Max Crosby, a guaranteed top 5 pass rusher for at least a year or two? Guy that will give it his
I
all
don't
no
know.
matter
I'd
what.
have to.
Because even with the
I would
Raiders, when he was
definitely
losing, he gave it all.
consider it. I would definitely consider it. And again, that's just like a ballpark for what. And I'm basing it off of that now. Who knows how much the Raiders are gonna want? Because let's say Max Crosby's like, I want out. Then leverage all of a sudden goes to him. And then yes, that means
I
that
want out,
the
gonna want an
Raiders probably
extension
don't
in
get
the
him
end.
much. So then okay, I'd probably do that. Um
Yeah.
so yeah, I
Um,
guess I wouldn't mind it, obviously.
okay, so if we didn't have a first round pick, I would get the concern. But since we have a first round draft pick in the 11th pick, we can trade back and get more pieces. Personally, I would easily trade for Max Crosby, second round pick. I would almost consider the 11th overall pick. I don't know if that's wild to say or not, but you get a
Yeah.
guaranteed starter across from Nick Bosa, and you now have two of the
Yeah.
top 5 pass rushers in the league. I mean, especially when you got a bunch of mobile quarterbacks out there that can make those stops. The only concern you have now is just the D tackle in the middle position. And I understand that 11th overall pick would be crucial for like maybe not interior, but the
Mhm.
tackles and stuff like that. But I just for a guy who's top 5, you easily, arguably the top 5. Some people even say he's top 3, top 2. I would easily give up a second round pick and maybe even a first round pick next year. I would do second round pick this year, first round pick next year for that kind of guy. Because I don't think Brian Burns is even on that level of Max Crosby. And I know
Yeah,
that first round pick
that's
is
fair.
dangerous, but my only thing is with Max Crosby is that they're like I did say, like for the first 2 years, like we could afford him obviously with that contract.
Mhm.
Is he going to want an extension? Is he going to want more money?
Crosby's like, I want out. Then that just
Hmm.
forces the Raiders to have to trade him because if he's like, I'm not coming to camp, I'm not coming to OTAs, I'm gonna sit out, like trade me, then that means all of a sudden, like the Raiders would just have to take the best offer at that point, and doesn't mean that the Niners would have to all of a sudden, trade a first round pick. So that's what I meant, like in
Yeah.
terms of leverage. I think that's a little bit of a pipe dream. I'd be very happy if they obviously got Crosby, but be shocked if it happened.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the chance of that is,
yeah,
I agree with you. It's like slim to none. If it happens, dude, glory to God if that
yeah,
happens. But
yeah.
I don't. I just feel like that's too good to be true, especially if the 49ers plan on signing Brock Purdy and doing something in free agency. Because if you trade for Max Crosby, you kind of limit yourself now in free agency,
Mhm.
and you kind of limit yourself there in that aspect for this year. So
Yeah, and I mean, you also have to think about it though, because Ayuk's contract's gonna kick in now.
true.
Kittle probably gonna get extended.
Yeah,
Jawan
he comes
Jennings, do
first.
they extend him again? It's like what happens with Kyle Juszczyk? So that's the
Do
thing is,
you
I think
extend
it's
Jennings
just
though this year? Or do you keep him? Like you just
I
have him
think
play
he
on
would
this year,
stay.
or would you extend him?
I would extend him. I mean,
Because this is
dude,
his
why
last
would
year,
you?
right?
Yeah, why would you not also when he's had such a good year, even though it was like a down year, like overall for the team?
I know, but can you afford when you got Pearsall already in the back wing, who's looking phenomenal right now? If
I'd
he can
still
repeat that
do it.
performance, and then you got Ayuk, then it just puts Juan back in the place he's always been, which he needs to go
I
somewhere.
would
Where he's,
still do it though, because the thing is, you don't know Ayuk's situation with the whole injuries and stuff too,
if
right?
he can
Because
come
it's like
back and look the same.
ACL, MCL, meniscus, yeah. So it's like, I think
But
I would.
so what if he does come back the same? Now you're like overpaying a bunch
Well,
of
then
like
that
wide
just means,
receivers,
bro,
right?
you have so
Because
much
that's kind of the risk you
depth, and
took
it's
when you signed him, right?
yeah. But I think, I mean, you just get more depth. Now, yes, if Jawan Jennings is like, okay, I can go get a Kendrick Bourne type of deal, like then
I'd
that
take Jawan over Kendrick Bourne
no, no,
for a
no. But
tough
I'm
percent.
saying like he may be looking at like a Kendrick Bourne
Oh, gotcha. Something
deal and
like
then
way
end up,
like that. Yeah,
leaving for another team. So I don't
I
know.
think
We'd have to
he, I
see.
think he would, I think he would overprice himself for the 49ers if he wanted an extension. I think he's going to ball out this year, and then he's going to ask for like starter money, right? Because he's going to ball out. We know that Juan balls out no matter what the situation. He always goes out there, makes plays when he has to, and he's going to demand a significant chunk of. I don't want to say significant chunk, but a good chunk of what would be the wide receiver part of the cap, and you can't afford that when you got Ayuk already on the
Mhm.
books, like you said. And Pearsall is somebody where you got someone in the wings. You got Cowing you're working on, not to mention who you might draft, because you know they're going to draft a wide receiver. Just what they do. They're probably going to draft somebody with speed, something Larry Kruger's banging the table for. I don't blame him, because we do need that speed guy.
Jacob Cowing
so
has
far.
some speed.
He does have speed. All right, look. He does have speed, but he hasn't quite put it together yet. I understand he's a fourth-round draft pick, deserves time,
You're
but
gonna
he's
have
got
to
to put it
see.
together.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's got the
dude,
heart.
I don't even want to get into that because I was arguing with someone on Twitter being like 4.38 speed and 4.4 something, and they're like, bro, that's a big difference. I'm like, because I tweeted out that
Not really,
dude, the
that's
Niners
not much
should
of a
do
difference
this.
at all.
Like, the Niners should do this. You know, the thing that they did with Williams, the Lions last week, where they did like the kind of end around or whatever.
Interception thing he did there through the ball.
No, not the interception.
I thought the one that worked
it.
out. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
I was like,
like that.
We need to do that with Jacob Cowing, and then people were just like, bro, he doesn't have as much speed as him. I'm like,
he's got the speed. That's trip. I agree with you, man. He's got the speed for that. If you're running a 4.3 in general or close to a 4.4, you could do stuff like that. It's not going to be. See, that's runaway speed, right? That's not.
Oh, it was 4.2 speed versus 4.38 speed, and Cowing is 4.38, and
I think it was the comparison that people were kind of like, because when you compare players, you and I both know, like, you start to think of this player and not necessarily just the aspect of the speed situation. So some people they can't separate the two sometimes. And I feel like that's probably, I don't know the argument, so I couldn't say, but just on top of my head, I feel like they just could separate that too. Because 4.3 is fast. Okay. That is fast. That is fast enough to do end arounds. That is fast enough to escape defenders who are backstepping, right, and have to turn around and get more speed. Like, you're going to, like, I agree with you, man. I do think that 4.3, 4.4. If you're talking about like a difference for me would be like 4.5 or like to 4.5 to maybe 4.45, maybe around there is probably slow, but is great. That's phenomenal. Especially it doesn't tell you the story of like your in-game speed at that.